Good morning. It's Friday morning. Uh, I'd like to first start out by apologizing. It's been over a week since I sent out my last video, and my knucklehead son gave me a bad virus, and so I've not felt well, and I'm also getting ready for a meeting in Washington that's really taken a lot of time, but those are not good excuses. I apologize. Many of you remember that the last time that I spoke about the first time that I lost someone in my family that really began to get me thinking about whether or not I would ever see that person again. And the thought of not seeing that person again, my Uncle Stanley, uh, was just way too much for me to think about. And several of you have asked the question, well, do you have to know the answer to everything? Well, I loved my uncle so much that I really, really desperately needed to know whether I would see him again, and to better understand. And as I talked about last time, I began to search for answers the way I typically do, empirically, by reading the great philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, Kant, Pascal, Nietzsche, some of the atheists, Voltaire. I went to the modern writers, Lewis, James, Gardner, Chesterton, but to make a long story very short, I did this for about a month. I completely quit going to work, and for about a month, all I did was read, and I'd sleep about 3 hours a night, and I quit eating. I was so, my soul was so sad and so dejected and so sick at the time, because I desperately needed to come to some resolution on this. And I remember my best friend at Hopkins, who he would say, he said, he and my wife at the time got together and said, what are we going to do? He hasn't eaten for a month. And they were really thinking about what to do with me. And I remember one afternoon, it was a Thursday afternoon, it was at the end of all this, and I remember going out into my backyard, and I remember looking up to God and saying, you know what, God, if you are there, you better show yourself to me. If you don't show yourself to me in some way, I'm out of here. I can't live like this. I have to have some evidence, and all of this intellectual evidence has provided me nothing. So the empirical evidence is equivocal as far as I'm concerned, but you have to provide me some evidence. I only have the faith of a mustard seed, so you've got to do something. I remember shortly after that feeling peace, and it was an incredible peace. And it was a peace that everything was going to be all right. And to be honest with you, I felt that peace ever since then. And it was the peace. I was asking for evidence. I needed unequivocal evidence. And God's evidence to me at that moment was peace. Now, next time I'm going to talk about whether or not that was irrational. As a scientist, getting an emotional response, was that irrational, or was that something that I can depend on? I guess the question I'd like to leave you with today is, have you ever lost someone? Have you ever lost someone or lost something, or something happened in your life that completely shook your faith foundation? And I'd like to have a discussion about this on our on Facebook. So answer me. You know what? I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to a good football game tonight. It's going to be cool. It's so beautiful. Have a great weekend.